Just on to Arsenal, and it says, surely if Arsenal go trophyless again next season, they have to sack Arteta. They are like the London Cowboys. We go again next season, FC. Look, obviously disappointing end to your season, Giuseppe. You didn't win. Cheers, bro. Thank you, Don. I know you didn't win the league, but you pushed City hard. There's a lot of Arsenal fans online that want him gone. There's a hell of a lot that want him to stay. How are you feeling about it all now, sort of 24 hours later, reflecting on your season, the sort of infighting about whether or not your manager should stay? Talk to us.
See, infighting, debating, as long as it's respectful, I think it's what football's all about. It's the whole sport. So listen, I'll never tell someone they're wrong for wanting Arteta gone. I just certainly don't believe in that. I think a lot of fans like to clown Arteta and say you should sack Arteta and all that. And I think that shows that people actually want us to get rid of Arteta because they actually realize Arteta's a good manager. To that question that he said if we should sack him next season if we go trophyless, once again, I don't do anything without context involved. We finish 8th we finish outside the Champions League next season, knocked out early in all the cups, then that you'll sack him. But if we're a couple points behind City again, we get to a Champions League final, maybe we even get to an FA Cup final and stuff, and we just don't go over the line. Yes, there will be questions. I don't know how I'll feel by then. But for me, you can't sack him right now. What he's done for the team is unreal. And I'd say it to people all the time with Man City as the team we're not beating. They're juggernauts. The same people that tell me we have no world-class players and Man City have the most amazing team and Arteta's a bad manager and they have the best manager in the world are the same people that are saying it's a failure to not win the league against these guys. That doesn't make sense to me. That to me, that makes zero sense. How can we have a rubbish manager, a rubbish team, and they have the best manager and the best team, and then when we don't beat them, they're like, "Oh, well, this manager's not good enough, mate. You ain't winning the league." I think you got to take it as it comes and context. I'm disappointed in the season because you can't be not disappointed when you go to the last day and not win the Premier League because the hope kills you all the time. But when you're looking at a team that's done a 4-peat, and we've actually pushed them to the end of the season. I'm talking from a fan I'm 27, so I was young when we done the Invincibles. I remember it, but it's not the same as doing it when you're older. I was 9 years old, so it was like watching it with my dad and stuff like that. So it's been hard times. So why everyone wants to be so negative when the good times are coming, I can't understand. It's I do think a lot of people want to be negative because they're slightly wrong about a few things they've said, and now they don't want to. They want to kind of double down on them being right and just get rid of the manager. I don't think that's the right choice. I think you can't bring anyone in that's better than this guy. I don't think there's many managers right now better than this man. I know that people might shoot me down for that. I don't think that you could. I don't think many people can name me five guaranteed managers themselves that will guarantee us beating Man City to a title. Yeah. Pep Guardiola is going to be one of them, maybe Klopp, but Klopp only done it once in 9 years, talking Ancelotti, and they're all unattainable. So for me, I'm not annoyed at our season. I'm disappointed, but I'm proud of the team. I think we've had players that have signed like Declan Rice, Kai Havertz has shut a lot of people up. You can't be and that's another thing. Kai Havertz is another reason why I struggle to realize why people want to sack this manager when everyone in the world laughed at that signing, including Arsenal fans, laughed at that signing. Arteta, that's it. And he had the balls, he had the balls after fumbling the season last year to sign Kai Havertz because he believed in it. And I think that's the type of manager you need in your team. Like someone who's actually going to put his neck out if he thinks something's right. And then it's kind of worked out for him. All right, he's not the, oh my God, 30-goal a season striker, but he's not been a bad signing. And people saying he's the worst signing ever. And now he ain't even in the conversation of flop of the season. If anything, if there's a metric, he's pushing more towards the signing of the season metric than the flop of the season metric. He ain't either, but I think he's more that side.
Yeah, when it comes to Arsenal, I look at their situation. I think Arteta's deserved end of a year, maybe even 2, just by how he's got you in the position that he is. He plays brilliant football. He has shown that he has learned every single season. He's shown that he's learned and he's gotten closer to the title each year. So you got to respect him for that. He deserves another chance. One thing I think he needs to be judged heavily on next season is the cup runs. You guys have not sniffed a final since what, 2020? Is that the last time? And obviously you won that, but since then, have you been to any finals? Have you been to any? You've been to a semi-final of the Europa League, and you lost it to Villarreal. Other than that, you guys have been nowhere near cups. And I think on this run that you guys have been going on, if you guys have picked up a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup or even a Europa League on the way there, you might have seen a bit of a mentality shift quicker to get over the line, because you now got experience with that. Because most of that team that won the FA Cup is gone, right? Now most of them aren't there no more, because everyone says it's Emery's. That was Emery's team he won it with. It's not really the team that you want to build with. So now he's built the team that he wants to have. You've got to start put silverware and a trophy on the table. And I'm not saying that next season you sack him straight away because he didn't win the Carabao Cup. That's unfair.
Yeah.
But like he needs to get these silverwares on the table. Otherwise, he'll just fall into the same category as Poch.
Yeah.
With just Poch with FA Cup and 2 Community Shields. That's where we dropping into.
KJ, the one thing about that point that you said about the Emery team, I hate that narrative of the Emery team won him the FA Cup, because then the same people won't say Emery's team was the reason we finished 8th 2 times. It's either Emery's team or it wasn't Emery's team. So like I agree with you, the cup competition's 100%, but I don't think that the Arsenal fan base would have actually changed their opinion on Arteta if he had won a Carabao Cup. I generally think the people that want him out, even if he had won a Carabao Cup, would still want him out.
Look, some people that want him out, even if you win the league next year, will still want him out, because they'll just say, but it's taken him 5 or 6 years to do it. There will be no, and I know that it's not a new thing in football. People think it's clout chasing or whatever. No, I was a Man United fan that when we signed Ronaldo, all I heard from rivals was when he first started, he was a one-trick pony. He was actually listed in newspapers as being one of Fergie's flops at 12 million quid. Then when he started to perform, they moved it on to, can he do it in title runs and finals? And yes, he could. Then they started looking at his record against other sort of, back then it was top 4 teams, and it wasn't particularly great. Then he started scoring against those teams. Then they said, yeah, but he did actually go something like a year or so without scoring a couple of years without scoring in the Champions League. Then they started saying, can he do it in the Champions League? Not only did he do that, he scored in finals, and look what he's gone on to do. He then gets to his late 30s, is well past his best. Now he's playing as a relatively static number 9 in comparison to his early years. And people were going, see, Terry, I told you 20 years ago about how he was static as a player. They never, ever, ever drop their agenda. And that is what's going to happen. Even Pep kind of goes through it. And I know everyone goes, oh, Terry, when it comes to bad punditry, you don't do it for any other club. It's not true. I did it for Pep today. And I played a clip from Jamie Carragher from 4 years ago where he did a whole bit of all the bad centre-backs that Pep has signed. And when he was listing, this was 4 years ago, he went, John Stones is a flop. Ake is probably going to be a waste of money. He said, Laporte hasn't convinced me. And who's Ruben Diaz? This manager, he's basically said, I'm paraphrasing now, doesn't know how to sign centre-backs. Those 4 centre-backs have gone to do a 4-peat. But it's one of these things where certain agendas against Pep have always, they're going one by one, but people then find the next reason to hate on him. If you don't like someone, you'll always find a reason to do it. And the people that have been wrong about him, the only thing they've got remaining that's right, that they're right about, is the claim that he'll never win a Premier League or a Champions League. But what about all the other claims they made? The claims of he'll never get us in the top 4. He'll never win us a trophy. They're wrong. He'll never be able to challenge. We won't be able to do it 2 seasons back to back. Oh, we lost that game now. We're going to collapse for the rest of the season. Barring I know the end goal is the most important, but they sit there and say, like, we're always right about everything we say about Arteta. Well, no, you're not. You just keep kicking if you keep kicking the can down the street, you can make yourself right, if that makes sense. But yeah, I do think the criticism is spot on. The overreaction and toxicity towards it, I personally think is crazy. He definitely deserves another year based on the context of like the way he's challenged this year. Doesn't mean there shouldn't be pressure on him, though. And this is where I find football such a horrible place sometimes to talk. There's banter, and then but then some people are just so polarized, and that's the problem with it. It's there has to be a balance, and I don't know how you view it, Nobbins. Obviously, you've gone toe to toe with them 2 years running. Do you think it would be wrong at this point for Arteta to go, or do you see it as someone who is now one of the most successful teams in England that's done a four-peat, that know sacking the manager and raising the standards is the most important thing Arsenal can do this summer?
No, they should keep Arteta because he's. I really rate Arteta as a manager. He's great. I think he's one of the best in the world. To be honest, I've gone on record saying I'd like him as a future City manager, to be honest. It will never happen, but I wouldn't mind that at all post-Pep. As long as there is progression, obviously. So like next season, like KJ mentioned the cup runs, I need to see them clear 90 points, to be honest. I've seen lots of like talk on Twitter of like people, comparing this Arsenal campaign to past campaigns, going, well, in this amount of seasons, they've won the league. In this amount of seasons, they've scored the most goals. And that's not relevant in a post-Pep era. In order, as Klopp found out, you need to be clearing at least 90 points if you want to have like an actual chance of beating Pep City side when they win the title. That's only not happened. If they had this season relative to all of other Pep's seasons, then they only would have won one, and that was in like the COVID year. We weren't particularly good. So that's what I need to see from Arteta next season. Just in terms of like the overall season, if I was like an Arsenal fan, obviously be happy with like how they've gone. But I've gone on record a number of times on this show saying that, City were not particularly good this season for our standards. That sounds stupid. We got 91 points. Blah, blah, blah. But for our standards, this was a weak season. For me, this is our worst title-winning season maybe ever under Pep. Sort of on par with like the COVID year, as I say. And there were many opportunities throughout the season to take advantage of that. Like, when we drew against Chelsea and Spurs and Liverpool and Palace, we only won 1 in 5. And we only got like 40 points at the halfway stage. And Arsenal just didn't take advantage of that. I think they only got 42 points or maybe 43 points at the halfway stage. They didn't take advantage of us not having De Bruyne for half the season. Didn't take advantage of Haaland not finishing his dinner as he normally does. And didn't take advantage of being in the lead in the title race with the last 9 games to go and then losing at home against Aston Villa. So they would be my main gripes if I was an Arsenal fan. And as I say, mistakes have been made this season. As long as there's progress next season, as I say, I would want to see 90 points broken. Because if you want to beat Pep City, don't bother comparing it to pre-Pep because Pep's changed the game. You're gonna have to go up a level, I think. I personally don't think they'll win it next season. I think City will actually get better. Because as I say, in my opinion, we've underperformed this year. But that remains to be seen. But that's my sort of.
Can I ask you a question on that? I also agree that you're going to be the favourites again next year. Someone's asked that question in the chat. Who is the manager that it has to be an attainable one? Because people that say names like Zidane or Ancelotti, I don't mean it's rudely to Arsenal fans. You don't have the facility to take Ancelotti away from what Real Madrid are doing and what he's doing. Who is the attainable option that for Arsenal that can make them better than you next season, as some Arsenal fans are calling for? Who do you believe is the man that would come in, who's attainable, and would make them better than Pep's Man City?
I personally don't think that manager exists, to be honest. I think that Pep is Pep, and I think he's the best manager in the world. And I don't know if there is any manager who would be able to really compete with him. Obviously, Klopp in his prime. If you look at all the other instances where like Pep's lost a title, it's his first season at City, which was Conte, but the context of it being his first season, didn't lose one at Bayern. And then at Real Madrid, it was Mourinho's Real Madrid, which had to get 100 points to beat Pep's Barcelona. So I don't know.
You say no one. You basically say no one can defeat this guy.
But this is the thing. Like there is.
That's why I don't agree with Arsenal fans. Sorry, go on.
But I want to get Kate. Sorry, you're right. No, but I want to get Kate's view on that because, I mean, listen, I get the banter. I get banter in Arsenal for not winning. We all do it to each other when rivals don't win things. I understand it. But in reality, you've got City fans here saying there is no one they believe that could make this Arsenal team better than Manchester City. Therefore, should Arsenal fans, just like Blake when he used to compete against Usain Bolt, does it come a point where you might just have to be happy with second place if there is no one that can make you better than them?
Yeah, look, I hear what you're saying, but for me, I don't think Arsenal are the finished article yet. I think they've improved this year again. I think they if you went on entertainment value, I think Arsenal deserved to win it. I enjoyed watching Arsenal more than Man City, but that doesn't get you trophies. But if they can get themselves a real top class striker with Arteta in charge, I think they can win the league. I think that's what they're missing. I just don't think they are the finished article. When you look at Manchester City, they're so strong in every single position. And even on the bench, they're so strong. And I just think Arsenal are lacking that final piece. Declan Rice has got them even closer. But I think they need a world-class striker to come through the door, bang in the goals, because there's been so many times where I've watched them and think someone should have put that away, someone should have buried that. They need a Thierry Henry of the modern day, and they're very, very hard to find. So, but for me, it's Pep is the best manager in the world at the minute. I don't think he's the greatest of all time, but he's certainly the second best in my opinion. Everyone can be beaten. Everybody can be beaten. Arsenal were top of the league for 93% of the season last year. So, but I just don't think they're quite the finished article. And someone's just put Isak, and yeah, someone like that, bring him into the Arsenal team, and I think they could win it. I do think really it's as easy as that. They're just not the final article.
How do you see it, Ches? I mean, obviously there's no love lost between you as a Chelsea fan and Arsenal. What do you think they need to now do to go to the next level? Is it improving the squad? Is it changing the manager? How do you personally see it?
I think the manager situation is interesting because obviously, like we've established, there's not many good options, alternatives out there. So two things can be true. He cannot be good enough in terms of getting over the line. It's yet to be seen. He hasn't won anything yet, major-wise. But also the manager market could be poor. So let's say you keep hold of him. I do think the mentality needs to shift a little bit. So Rodri's comments after the game, people kind of like they misrepresented what he was trying to say. He was basically trying to say about the mentality, about like how that microcosm of that game against City away from home, them not trying to win that game, kind of like shows their mentality in general. And the fact they were in this season, they had opportunities to take the lead and to win the league, even up and recently until Aston Villa, and they lost that game at home. They're the little things to me which can be improved. So whether that's quality in the squad to help, let's just say, people getting complacent, or whether that's the mentality of the team overall to get that winning mentality back, like KJ was saying before about trophies, then I think those small margins will help them over the line. I don't think there's a massive change, but I've always said to people that to go from second to first is harder than going from like fifth to second. The small differences are harder to come by because they're harder to see, and they're harder to change because you have a certain way of playing, you have a certain mentality. Now you've got to tweak it just a little bit extra. That's very difficult to do. So,
especially when you're going
that's what I'm saying.
Team. Sorry, go on.
I'll also tell you what I was going to say was that football's not linear. Like, if football was that simple, then we could predict everything. Like, I would just say Arsenal win the next 10 years, City will, but it doesn't go like this. So, like, I'm not saying they're going to drop off or they're going to flop, but people saying them getting the striker winning the league, not necessarily.